Hey you guys, welcome back to another episode of On My Last Brain Cell, hosted by me. I just came back from getting my hair cut. I have a hat on because I didn't want to style it, and I was like, I'll style it later because I have to work graveyard tonight. But yeah, I just I spent so much money to get my hair done, and then I throw on like a hat or a beanie, and I'm like, what am I doing, bro? I need to learn how to do my own hair at this point. Anyway, though, we're just gonna jump right into it because this is what feels like the long awaited episode that some people have been wanting, which is my entire DUI story. Like what led up to it, the aftermath, all of that. And I also want to just jump right into it because I know I'm going to be speaking for a minute because yeah, I just feel like I'm going to be speaking for a while and I want to just get this episode over with. So, yeah, for those of you that were interested in knowing, like, just wanted like the full tea of it all, but then just keep on watching. So to start it all off, I guess I'll kind of give like a little bit like of a backstory. It happened last year, and then also last year was the first time that I decided to get sober. You know, I felt like alcohol was kind of just well, substances in general were kind of taking over my life. I've been using and getting loaded since I was like 14. I think by the time I was 14, I was already like full blown into it. You know, I was drinking, I was doing drugs, I was just doing everything. I always went through waves where there were times from what I can remember that like I didn't use at all, whether that be like drugs or alcohol. And then I would like randomly fall into like these rabbit holes of me just like almost being like shaft deep. And I guess in what you could call, I guess, addiction. Um, that's something that I've always like struggled with is that if I am an addict or not, because I have those little moments where I can survive without it. But then once I get my hands on it again, it gets to the extent that it always does. You know, it's always fun at first, and then it becomes very detrimental to me in general. You know, my life, my mental health, my overall well being. Like it's just it really fucks me up after a while. So I decided to get sober for the first time last year. Well, not really the first time, but it was the first time that I decided to get fully sober. Before that, I've tried to like really find that control when it comes specifically to alcohol. I wanted to find that control where I was like, okay, I'll go out and I'll have like one or two. But then the minute that it feels like alcohol touches my lips and enters into my system, it's just one after the other, after the other, after the other. And when I'm already like completely blacked out, like I just keep going and going and going, you know? So last year was the first time I did it fully, like stone cold sober. Like I didn't drink at all. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't doing anything, and it was really eye opening having to experience that for the first time. Because like how I said, it was my first time being like fully sober. So it was very overwhelming because I had to learn who I was outside of alcohol, and I had to relearn, you know, what my triggers were, what I can tolerate, what I can handle and not, you know, if there's certain areas or certain events that'll bring out those temptations in me. And there was many events that I went to last year that was like really making me crave alcohol. I remember me and my siblings and my friends, we went to this one thing called like the Asia Food Fest. Uh, but before that opened, we went to this other thing called Market in the Alley, and then afterwards it was the food fest. And my friend was also trying to get sober, and she was like, "God, I really want to drink," and I was like, "I do too, man." And I told her I was like, you know what? I was like, if because this is the type of person I am, where I was like, if you go down, I'm gonna go down with you as well. So we were like saying that we were gonna drink, but she was like, Adam, I can't like I can't let you drink. Like if I drink, it's because I'm going to, but I can't bring you down with me. And I was like, oh, dude, I low key wanted something, but we stayed sober throughout the entire night. Um, but yeah, I just pretty much had to relearn who I was outside of alcohol, and I realized just how much it did almost kind of control my life. You know, whenever I go out, I am a very social person, but I become even more when I'm drunk, and I tend to make friends with everybody, and this time it was like I'm having to make friends and be social without the alcohol. So there was like a little bit of anxiety with it. But anyway, I made it to 7 months, and I think it was seven. No, it was eight. I made it to 8 months because I made it to August, and then by September, wait, no, I can't even like recall. Okay, so technically, if you want to go by like the AA rules, I only made it to 6 months because then once my 6 months hit, I drank once that month because I wanted to celebrate. Um, so I got drunk that day. So technically, I made it to 6 months, but then I was still relatively sober. I somehow found that control where I would have like one or two beers, and then the minute that I would feel like that buzz, I would stop drinking. It wasn't until October where that's like where it like really went downhill. We went to go celebrate one of our friends' birthdays, and I was taking them back, bro. I don't know what it was about that day that I was just taking them back, and then that was like the start of it all. And then we went to like a rave, and I was getting drunk there too. And then by November, I had let some guy back into my life that I should have never let back in. You guys probably know him by what I call him, which is Cholo Daddy, which he will be a whole separate episode because some people have been wanting like the full tea on him, and I'll give it to you guys. I don't care. So I don't want to get too into like the story with him because I know I'm gonna make a whole different episode, but that's kind of where like it all went downhill after I let him back into my life. So really quick with him, he was somebody that I had like really fallen in love with that I had met the previous year. Yeah, I had met him the previous year, and then he's very avoidant, and he's one of those where he's really scared to be happy because he has a lot of trauma. So then he tends to self sabotage, which he admitted to. Disgusting. A 35-year-old, well now 36, about to be 37, admitting that he self sabotages, which I get it to an extent where it's like okay, you admit to it, but what are you gonna do about it? Which is absolutely nothing because he still acts the same way. But because I missed him a lot, and then also because I was already like drinking and doing drugs and all of that, I don't know why. Like whenever I start doing all of that, like I just start to miss him more. So I hit him up. That's when I was on Hinge and I found him on there, and I just did like the typical thing where I was like, "Hey, I miss you." I was being straight up with him, and he was like, "I miss you too, Adam." And with him, I think it always felt more intense than it really was because we were both fueling, if you want to call it, our addictions. Every time we were around each other, we were always drinking and we were always doing coke with each other. And the first night that I spoke to him was a Sunday, and I didn't have to work the next day until like 2 p.m. And I went to go see him because he was like, "Oh, like I want to see you," and I was like, "Well," and that's when I still had my car, and I was like, "Well," I was like, "I'll go over and I'll see you." I didn't leave his house that day until like 5, almost 6 a.m. And we were drinking nonstop. We were doing coke, like it was like old days. And it, I guess you could say, it almost fueled that delusion of like, okay, maybe we could get back to where we were. So, but within that week, he ended up like doing the same thing he always does, and he just dropped me, and he didn't care about me. Whenever he gets in one of his little moods where it starts to become a little too real for him, that's when his avoidance comes out, and he just treats me like absolute shit after that. So within that same week, and it was my birthday, he ended up just like dropping me, and I was like, okay, here we go again. He ended up triggering my BPD to the point of I didn't eat for almost like 5 days. I would just go to work and just do what I had to do and come back, shower, sleep, and then go back to work. And even my coworkers would try and like get me to talk or whatnot, but it was such a bad episode that I would walk around almost like in the daze, because that's the thing when you're borderline is when that is triggered. It wasn't the best way I can explain is that like it wasn't just like a normal breakup. It was like I was grieving him. He triggered my entire nervous system, and when it comes to BPD, the way that your body protects itself is that it completely shuts down. So it shut down, and I didn't eat for almost 5 days, which was really bad. And then that's when I started to feel like my drinking even more. I was going out every weekend, getting fucked up, doing drugs, doing everything. And then that's when the inevitable happened. And I always remember it was December 15th. I went out on a Sunday, as I always do, with one of my friends to Cornish, which is our favorite bar here in Vegas. And I I blacked out. B- Yeah, I basically blacked out. And I remember being at the bar, and then when I had like came to again, I remember being in my car, and that's the crazy part because she was driving. I wasn't driving that night, and yeah, when I came to, I was already in my car. I see a red light and I pass it, and seconds, like milliseconds later, some white tundra comes to the side and side swipes me. My car spins out. The airbag goes off and hits me in the face, but because I'm so drunk, I don't feel anything. Like from what I remember was the car hitting me and me hearing the crash, and I'm like white knuckling my steering wheel, and I just feel the whole car spinning, and I end up falling into like a little dirt ditch that's like right there. And I was just sitting there like, oh my god, it's still like nothing really. Um, what's the word I'm trying to use? It didn't really register to me because even when I had like woken up from the blackout, I was still really fucking drunk. And I just remember sitting there in my car like, what the fuck happened? Which is it's not funny, but it's like I look back and I'm like I can remember like how that's when like I fully woke up, but still like nothing was registering to me. And I remember some girl came up to me, and I don't even know who she was. I don't know if she was in the other car, if it was some random person, but she was like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" And I remember not being able to like open my car door. And I was like, "Oh, I can't get out of my car." And she was like, "No, you're fine. It's okay." Like they called the police and the ambulance, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But still not registering in my head, like, "Hey, like, look at what the fuck just happened." And I use CapCut to edit this, so if I can, I'll upload like the photos of how my car looked like afterwards. Um, and if I can't, then I can. I'm sorry, but I'll try to upload. I'll see if I can have like the images right here. But anyway, after that happened, uh, I feel like I either blacked out or I knocked out because then I just hear like the police like tapping on my window. And then he was like, "Hey, like, is everything okay?" And then I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Oh, can you step out of your car?" And this time I was able to, which was weird because I remember when she came up to me, I wasn't able to. And then when he came, all of a sudden my car door was able to open. I come out, and then that's when he's like, that I really can't remember what happened after that, like if he was speaking to me or not. But he ended up giving me the breathalyzer, and then he gave me the alcohol test. So with the test, I had to. There was one part where like you stand on one leg, like on each leg, but like just on one, which I ended up kind of like toppling over. And from what I remember, because I'm telling you, like it still wasn't registering in my head, like, hey, you fucked up. I was like, okay, if you're gonna do the test, I was like, lock in, and everything is gonna be okay, and they're gonna let you go home. Alcohol brain, like drunken brain. So I do that test, and then there's one where like you have to like touch your ears. He's like left, right. I fucked that one up too. Um, I can't remember the other test, but it was like three different things he had me doing, and then that's when he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to handcuff you," and I was like, "Oh, I fucked up." I was like, I didn't lock in the way that I was supposed to, and yeah, he ends up, um, he handcuffs me, and then he puts me in the back of the police car, and then he tells me like, "Oh, we're gonna take you to the hospital just to make sure that nothing is broken or ruptured or whatever." And there's where I crashed. There's like a hospital like right around the corner, so we ended up going there. And from what I remember as well, I end up in there and I'm like in the hospital bed. And because I'm drunk, I'm like a little too honest. I mean, I'm already an honest person, but when there's like a substance in my body, it just gets worse. So I remember the nurse, she was like, "Oh my gosh, sweetheart, like why would you do this?" Like, and I was like I remember telling her like I was like I did this for a man. Isn't that so fucking nasty? And sometimes I look back and I'm like, there's no way I told her that. But again, like I'm drunk, so it's like the honesty just pours out of me even more. And she just looks at me and she goes, "Oh, sweetheart." And during that time, during this entire time, I am still incredibly fucked up. So they put the IVs in me and everything. We chill for like a little bit, and the police is asking me stuff. And then afterwards, they give me an MRI. They give me like the exams and whatnot. Is that what it's called? An MRI? I worked in the medical field and I don't even know. But they gave me X-rays with contrast, and they said I was completely fine. Which, hey, no, I wasn't, because later on I found out that my right rib was fractured, and I was like, was there too much swelling for you to see that, or what the fuck? I was like, or did the contrast not work? But I didn't know that my rib was fractured until later on when I started to sober up in the jailhouse, where I was like, it really hurts right here. Um, but yeah, I got the X-rays and then they took me back to the little bed. I remember knocking out, and then the doctor woke me up and he goes, "Okay, before they take you to the jailhouse, I need you to get up and like walk around so we could see if anything is like broken because your body's relaxed now." He was like, we need to see if everything is okay. If you could walk." And I walked perfectly fine. And even though I was like kind of sobering up, it's my ribs still didn't hurt. So I didn't know that I had all this like damage on me. So then we ended up after that, and I told them I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." They put me back in the bed, let me chill for like a little bit more, and the police was like, um, "I'm gonna finish up the paperwork and then we'll take you." We end up in the police car again, and then he tells me he's like, "When you're in there, just keep doing what you're doing, just keep being compliant, and everything will be okay." And I was like, "All right." They end up once we get there, they end up doing like the typical thing. They strip me, they take off my jacket, my socks, and my shoes, and they put me like in these neon orange chanclas, which later on I hated. My toes were out and I was freezing, dude. Like I was so cold. And I'm like, can I at least have my socks, bro? Like I am freezing. And once we enter the jailhouse, they put these kind of handcuffs on you where it's like it starts like off at the waist, and then you kind of look like a T-Rex, like you're like that, which was the most uncomfortable thing ever. And you sit down and you just like see just the people that come in and out of there, dude. It was a weekend, so they were bringing in so many people with DUIs. Then there's like the typical people that are causing like a kid, like a scene and a ruckus and whatnot. They called me up later on, and then I don't even know how long I'm sitting there, dude. Because again, I'm still like very much drunk. And I remember from what the cop told me in the car, he was like, "Okay, we're gonna have like, because for your first DUI, they have you at the jailhouse mandatory for 12 hours because you need to detox." And he's like, "I don't know if they're gonna add the hospital time to that, or if your 12 hours are gonna start right when you get into the jailhouse or the detention center, whatever you want to call it." What That's one thing I will say that was really nice that I appreciated, was that they added the hospital time, so I didn't stay too long in the detention center. So, and he told me, he was like, when you get out, they're gonna have you do a breathalyzer, so you're gonna have to like drink as much water as you can and get sober, or else if you fail that, they're gonna hold you even longer. And I was like, okay. As I'm sitting there, who knows? Like I said, who knows how long it was? Some inmates that worked there were passing food around. Some of those most nastiest food I've ever seen. It was two pieces of white bread that were untoasted with bologna in the middle, that was cold, a little scoop of white rice, and then like green beans. And I'm telling you, when I opened that like to go like that takeout box, I was like, what? I was like, I don't want to eat this. But I knew I had to eat it because I was like, if I don't get sober, they're gonna keep me in here, and I want to get the fuck out. So I had to like just muster up the courage, and I was like eating that shit, and I was like, "Ugh," as I was eating it, I did not want it. After that, they end up calling me up and they take the handcuffs off of me, and I have to write down three emergency calls. Because after that, they were gonna take my. Oh no, they had already taken my phone, and then they gave it back to me, and they were like, write down three emergency contacts. So I did that, but I didn't call anybody because I was so embarrassed. And then also too is like you won't be able to bail me out because I have to do the mandatory 12 hours. Like I'm gonna just tell you, and then like nothing can be done. So then after I do that, they end up taking my fingerprints, and then they take the photo of my mugshot, which a lot of people have asked me if I could show it, and I would show you guys because you guys know how I am. I'm very open about everything, but I can't find it. I even like months after I've gone to onto like the websites and searched up like my last name, my first name, my inmate number, everything, and like I can't find anything. But that's the thing. It wasn't an inmate number, um, and I think that's why I can't find it because technically I wasn't um how do you call it? I wasn't held. I was just being processed, and then I was just waiting it out. So I think because I wasn't actually put into jail, that's why my mugshot never showed up. And someone told me that I would have to ask for it, and I'm like, it's fine. I don't need to see that. After they ended up processing me with like the mugshot and then like the fingertips and everything, they take you to another part, which what I tell people when people have asked me about it, I call it like the lobby because that's what it looks like. It's separated. The men are like if you're walking into it like straight ahead, to your left is the men that sit right here on like these benches, and then like the medic area, and then it's like the women. So I was sitting there for like hours too. Um, After that, the medics call you up to ask you even more questions about like what happened, do you have problems, blah blah, yada yada yada. Lady ends up coming around. Like me and her are talking about stuff, and she was like, "Do you have like, are you on any meds or anything? Do you have like history of mental health?" And I was like, "Well, like I deal with the typical stuff like depression, anxiety, and I'm also borderline." And she was like, "Are you taking anything for your borderline?" And during that time, I wasn't, and I was like, "No." And she was like, "Are you in therapy?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "You need to be on something." And I was like, "Well, clearly I'm not, because look at what happened." Like I'm in here for a reason, bro. And then she comes around, and she was like, "I just need you to lift your shirt to see like if you have anything." That's when I found out about the bruising that I had. Which again, if I can upload the photo, and trigger warning for anybody, because my stomach was fucked, bro. Fucked. Like my lower abdomen was bruised up to hell. I lifted up my shirt, and she was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "What is what?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And that's when I look down and I see the entire bruising on my lower abdomen. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know I had that." Which, let me also say, the useless ass fucking cops. Because when after they stripped me and put me in the chanclas, the cop asked me the same thing: lift up your shirt so we can see if, like, if you have anything concealed. So I lifted my shirt, and I remember him making the face, and he was like, "You could put your shirt down." So you weren't gonna tell me? So you were just gonna look at me with disgust and not even tell me that my stomach looks the way it does. But it kind of clicked where I was like, that's why he looked at me like that. But I didn't know that I had all of that. And then it was already during that time that my right rib was hurting, and I was like, I don't have any pain, but just in my right rib. But the medic in there really can't do anything, and she was like, "Oh, okay." So I finish up with her, and then I go sit back down. And like the thing when you're in there is like you immediately lose. Like it's so true what they say. Like you lose all concept of time because there really is no windows. Like it's literally just walls, just like brick walls. It's what it's called. It's confinement. I didn't even know what time it was, what day it was. I didn't even know if it was like the same day or not. And then also too, like you lose all autonomy. Like when you sit down, one of the police officers behind you tells you like if you need to use a bathroom or get a drink of water, you have to raise your hand and ask me. And I was like, what the fuck? Are we in kindergarten again? I was like, I have to ask you. It's just crazy. Like the minute that you walk in there, like you lose all of it. But anyway, as we're sitting there, there's still people coming in and out, people causing a ruckus, just like everything. Um, Afterwards, I hear my last name being called, and I was like, oh my god. But that was just them like continuing with the process to have us like leave. So they call me and like four other people up, and they put us up against the wall. It's like this hallway that's right in front of you, and they put us up against the wall, and right there are the holding cells. And I look at and I see the holding cells, and I'm like, please don't tell me that you're like putting me in here, because when they were calling people up and putting them up against the wall, it was to like start the process of putting them in there. And I was like, please don't. Like that was my biggest fear, was that like I cannot get locked up. Like I am too pretty for jail. I was like, don't lock me up, bro. But the cop that was talking to us, she was like, oh, okay. She was like, just stay in this line, do as you're told, listen to what I'm saying, so we could get you out of here quick. And I was like, oh, thank God I'm fucking leaving already. One thing I'm gonna say is that the one thing that pissed me off is that every cop in there, when you're being processed or just doing all these things, they take their sweet ass fucking time. Like the cop that was walking us everywhere, oh my god, she was walking like she had all the time in the world. And it was irritating me more, because I was like, okay, I get that we're in trouble, but can you hurry the fuck up? I'm like, you're saying that you're trying to get us out of here as quickly as you can, but yet you're moving at a glacial pace. Come on, bro. I was so irritated already, because I had already sobered up, and I was like, okay, the anger is settling now. Like, I'm irritated. Get me out of here. And then to make it worse, she's taking us to all these places, and then she takes us into another holding cell where there's other people in there, and she puts us in there, and she was like, "You guys wait here, and I'll call you guys." And I'm like, I have to do more waiting, and I was like, and then when I walked in there, oh, there was such a fine ass cholo, and I was like, if I get locked up with him, I'm gonna volunteer as tribute, and I'm gonna be like, I'll be your bitch, because I know you're gonna protect me. I was like, but I'll be your bitch. I was already contemplating everything. I was like, if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna find the finest man, let him do whatever he needs to do, and he'll protect me, and it'll be all good, you know? Because I remember having that conversation with my coworkers before, where it's like, I will only survive jail because I'm gonna be a whore. Oh, I'm gonna be a whore. I'm gonna be lustful. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna come out of there with every hole resized. You know what I mean? Like, I need to find a way to survive this. Anyway, ignore me. Anyway, anyway, after that, they take me and one guy who I ended up going to court with. I guess me and him were the only ones with the DUI. We go around this corner, and it's already like the end of you're about to leave, but they give you back your belongings, but then they also ask you for like your phone number, your email, and an address, so they could send you like info about your court, which they never sent me anything. Like, I think the only paper that I got was the one that the clergy gave me, or the clerk lady, that was telling me what day my court was gonna be. But other than that, I was like, I didn't get anything else. Uh, but she called me up, and she gave me the paper and everything. And for some reason, it was like pushed out 3 months. Like, that happened in December, and my court was sometime in March. There were some people who didn't get court because they were like, oh, they dismissed your case and whatnot. I was still kind of hopeful, because I was like, it's my first time. Maybe they'll let it slide. But I think, but I go up there, and she was like, you have court. And I was like, okay. I was like, thanks. Oh yeah, but before all of that, before they were able to like process us all like as a group, me and that guy that she called, they had us do our final breathalyzer. And he had told us, he told me the same thing that the cop told me, where he's like, you have to breathe into it until you hear like a locking sound. He was like, if you fuck up, or if you start breathing before that lock up, that little locking sound, he was like, I have to do that as a fail, and then we're gonna have to keep you here longer, and then do it again. So with my busted ass rib, I had to take the deepest breath that I could, and I, did it, and I passed it. The guy next to me, he didn't. He did it until it locked, but I think he still had more alcohol in the system, and they were like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to wait." So he didn't leave until like after me. So after we do all of that, I give them my email. They tell me when I have my court. Then we go into this other area, and that's when they give us back our shoes and our belongings and everything. And I remember in that moment, when they let me out through like the back and everything, I was finally out, and I was like, oh, fucking finally. But that's when everything started to settle into me, and I was like, what the fuck did I just do? You know? And it was in that moment that I had to have like a really quick conversation with myself that I was like, either you have to finally fix your life, or you could just let your addictions, completely take over you. And where I left, because where the detention center was, if for those of you that are listening that live in Vegas, it was on Fremont Street. And when I went out through the back, there was there's casinos all there. And I think the one in front of me was Binion's, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, the first thought that went into my head, I won't lie, was okay, I don't have a car, so that means no car note or insurance. So now I have extra money. This is money for me to get fucked up on. And I almost walked to that casino so I could start drinking again. But then that's when I was like, because that's the thing with me, is that like I can be very self-aware, but I can also be very self-destructive. And it like something just like clicked right then and there, and that's when I had that conversation with myself, where it's like, do you really want to do this, or do you want to fix your life? Because it's like, how much more further down can you go? Like, I feel like you're already scraping the fucking floor. Like, what more do you want to do? So in that moment, I called an Uber and I went home, and then I had to have that discussion with my parents. I think, and that's the one thing that a lot of people were asking me, was that, like, how did your parents react? And I told them that they reacted better than I thought they would, you know. But I think what also has, it kind of sucks to say, but I think what also has helped my parents to like kind of calm down is, you know, unfortunately we all came out as addicts, and all of us have dealt with all of this, so they kind of are used to like these punches. But they were just like, damn, dude, like, they told me the same thing, where it was like, now it's up to you, where it's like, if you really want to choose to fix your life, or if you want to keep on doing this. Who I got yelled at was from my my coworkers and my friends, so some of them were really sad to hear what happened, and they were like, oh, like, but everybody was just telling me the same thing, where it's like, now it's up to you. It's like, do you really want to make that change, or do you want to keep on going any further? So yeah, after that, I just had to wait out for my court date. Because I wasn't, um, I always forget the word. I wasn't charged yet. So in March, I had my first court date. I showed up. Oh my God, I was there for hours, bro. I was there for hours. My court was at 8, and I got there at 8. Well, I won't lie. Well, no, I was there at 8, but I was only late because I had followed. Because when you walk into like the court area, there's like this huge like electronic board, and it tells you have to look. Can I speak? You have to look up yourself by your last name, because it automatically switches. So you see your last name and what room you're in. But when I get there, there's nobody out there, and I was like, but this is my first time being in court, so I was like, okay, I didn't really think much of it. And then I see a sign where it's like that it moved to a floor that was to like to the upper floor, like I was one floor below. So I ended up going there, which caused me to sign in late, which is why I was there for hours. But then also too, the same courtroom that they were gonna use for us, they were using it for a trial already, because I guess some guy killed 2 people, and I was like, "Ooh, not you putting me in this courtroom, bro." I'm there. I sign in with the person. He makes me fill out this one thing that I can't remember what I was filling out, but I filled it out, and then they take us into the courtroom, and they tell us to sit on the right side. And it was just such a process, dude, because they start off with the inmates, and then Zoom calls, and then they go down the line of who um signed in first, and I was almost like last. And I was just sitting there having to hear everybody get like charged, and people who couldn't stay out of trouble, and even like the inmates who couldn't stay out of trouble. And it was, oh, what was even more irritating was that like they were having one recess after the other. Like they would do, some of the inmates have a recess and finish that off, then have another recess, do the Zoom calls, have another recess, and it was just like that. And before I knew I was gonna get called, I was like, okay, I'm almost out of here. Another fucking recess, and I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to get out of here. But they finally call me up, and then he tells me, because I had other charges too, other than like the DUI. because like I said, I'll keep it transparent. Because I was choosing, I guess you could say, like my addictions or my vices over, doing what I was supposed to be doing. So my car wasn't registered. I did have insurance, but because it's on my phone, they charged me for not having insurance. But when I saw all of that, okay, so because I'm trying to remember, so I'm jumping ahead. I ended up speaking to a public defender, and he saw the other charges that I had, and he was like, he's not gonna care about those. He's gonna drop them. He's mostly gonna worry about the DUI. And I remember he brought me and some other lady in the room, and he was like, I'm gonna give you guys two options. When he asks you how you're gonna testify, you're gonna say no, no contest. He's gonna drop these charges, and then you're just gonna get charged for the DUI. He was like, or you could fight it, but you're gonna be fighting it for months, and at the end of it, you're still gonna get charged with DUI, and it's still gonna go on your record like nothing's gonna get scrubbed. I don't know if this lady wasn't listening or not, or if she thought she could beat the system, but she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fight it." And I was like, "Girl, he just said that you're gonna be in here for longer, like fighting it, and you're still gonna get the same fucking charges. So what's the point?" But she wanted to fight it, and I was like, "You must got time and money to spend." So he sends her back, and then he looks at me and he goes, "That wasn't the smartest choice." And I was like, "Oh, I know." I'm like, "The way you were explaining this sounds so counterintuitive." And on top of that, again, you're still gonna get charged. He goes, "Exactly." He was like, "What you're doing is a smarter choice." He was like, "So please," he was like, "Please, no contest." And I was like, "I will." So then, I guess sit back down, and that's when the recess is and everything else continues to happen. Then they call me up, and he does drop the other charges. I was only charged for the DUI. And I told him, I was like, no contest, blah blah, yada yada yada. And that's when he gives me the paper of like, you have to do the 8 hour class, or if you want to do community service, or if you want to pay the fine. Then when I go back, some other lady pulls me back, and she was like, "Oh, we have this coupon where you could literally do everything only for $100, like both." It was like the class and like the test or something like that for just $100, and then you would have to pay your fine. And I was like, okay. So then I started doing that. I didn't really have that big of a fine. I'll tell you guys what it was because it surprises everybody, and it surprised me too. Because there's some people who have gotten like first time DUIs and they had to pay like almost like $1,200. My fine was only $685. So I feel like I got off like really really easy. And then I was also freaking out about the hospital bill because I don't have insurance, and they were giving me X-rays and shit. My bill only came out to $94. So I was like, ain't no fucking way. I was like, I that's what really pushed me to be sober, was because I was like, I really got off so easy. Like and everything I have to do is only $100. I was like, I didn't really have to spend that much. And there were some people who they were asking me who have gotten DUIs, and they were like, how much was yours? And I told them, and they were like, what the fuck? Somebody was like, whose dick did you suck? And I was like, hey, I didn't even have to, and everything came out cheaper than it was supposed to. And yeah, so then I ended up taking the class and like the test. The test was really easy because it's literally like it's like a multiple choice test, but then they give you a binder that has all the answers onto it. So I passed that. And I remember when I got there, I had given her the coupon that she had given me because it was the same girl, and she was like, "Okay, I have to give you the rundown." And I was like, "What happened now?" So she tells me that the judge ended up changing it from an 8 hour class to a 12 hour class. But and she was like, so with this coupon, she was like, technically we're not supposed to accept it because it has to be a 12 hour class. She was like, but when you were convicted, your paperwork said 8 hours. And that's when she was telling me, she was like, I'm not trying to tell you how to cheat the system, but if you want to fight it, you could show them that when the paperwork that even the court gave you, that the judge gave you, it says 8 hours. And I was like, ooh, I got you. I was like, okay. She was like, but just keep in mind, because it's true what they say. It depends on how the judge feels. He was like, if they do have to send you back, then we'll get that fixed for you like real quick. And I was like, all right. But then she even told me that I might not have to do that because not even the DMV, they're not up to date with anything. So with them, even though the judge is saying it's a 12 hour class, the DMV still has like the 8 hour one. So she was like, you should be fine. So I do the test. I think I was only there for like an hour, and I thought it was gonna take longer. But I do the test. And then it's like the one that's mandatory, which is like the in-person one. Because everybody told me that that's when like you see dead bodies supposedly, like they take you to a morgue and they show you like like dead bodies from what happens like during like a DUI like car crash. I guess they ended up changing it because now it's not like that. What they did was that they showed us a news clip of, and I remember it too, of a very famous car crash that happened not here, but it happened in California. But it was famous because the kids were from here in Vegas, and I remember those kids because we all went to the same high school. And I remember that they were in California, and there was a drunk driver, and she had hit them hard enough that the car exploded, and all the kids ended up dying. I think one survived, but all the other ones like, or I think they all ended up like burning alive, and it became a very famous like case here in Vegas. And what made me realize how Vegas is even smaller was that she asked us like what we thought of the video, and I was like, oh, I was like, I remember them because I went to school with them, and she was like, oh yeah, those were my friends, and I was like, I was like, Vegas is way too small, bro. But yeah, after that, I ended up passing everything. I passed the whole DUI class with the 94. I was there for like an hour max. It wasn't too bad, but I was like, I just want to get this over with already, dude. And then she was like, this is your next court date. And I did what she told me to do. I brought all the paperwork just in case they wanted to fight me on like, hey, it's a 12-hour class, and be like, hey, when you convicted me, it says 8. But I went there. I got there early this time. I signed in early. I didn't have to deal with any of like the recesses. I did have to do like the same thing, like wait for like for them to do the inmates and then the Zoom calls and then us. Oh my god. When I was sitting back there, the amount of people who could not stay out of trouble and that were getting locked up right then and there, dude. There was even inmates who were just they kept fucking up in the prison, or they let what happened with one guy was that they let him out and he was already free, but because he was on probation, and when you're on probation you can't get in trouble with the law at all. That also includes that like if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, they could still throw your ass in prison, which I think is fucked up, but whatever. But he got involved with the law again because even though he was out, again he was on probation, and he stole from like two separate Home Depots, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So they threw him back in jail for another 6 months, which is one thing I was also told too, was that if I didn't pay anything, that's when they would give you like the 6 months in jail. And low-key, I won't lie, I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I could save money. I don't have to spend these $600. I don't have to do the class. But then it's like I have to be in jail for 6 months. Who knows if I'm gonna come back and even have my job, you know? But there were so many people getting like arrested like right then and there. And what was crazy was that like these attorneys would try and like defend these people. I mean, obviously that's what their job is. And they'll be like, no, he's been doing this and this. But then there's a lady sitting right there that the judge is talking to as well, who's representing the state, and she would be like, actually, this is what happened. And she would put them on blast, bro. She would put their whole tea out there and be like, he failed to do this and this and this and this and this. There were some who, like, he was already out and he ended up getting a domestic. One of them got another DUI. And on top of that, he got child endangerment because while he was drunk in the car with expired tags, he had his kid in the back of the car. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, you guys really couldn't stay out of trouble. There was one guy that ended up getting like handcuffed like right in front of his kid, and I was like, God damn. So I was, even though I paid for everything, I was getting so fucking nervous. I was like, what if he's just like, because because like because like how I've been saying, where it is true that it depends on how the judge feels. I was like, what if he's just so irritated that he's like, you know what, I'm gonna throw your ass in jail too. And I was like, oh my god, no. But then he ends up calling me up. Well, the a public defender calls me up first, and then he was like, I see that you paid for everything, your fines are done, you passed your class, we have your documents here, congratulations, thank you for doing what you were supposed to be doing. He's gonna call you up and dismiss you, and we could get you out of here. And that's what kind of eased me more, because I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get locked up. So then he calls me up, and then he was like, oh, this case is for Adam, blah blah, yada yada yada. And then he was like, this is a checkup to see, because that's what that second court date was for, like a checkup to see if you did what you were supposed to do. And that's what he said. He was like, this is a checkup to see if Adam, paid his fines and he did his classes. And the state lady smiled at me and she was like, "Yes, he did." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "I did. I really did." I was like, "Don't lock me up." And then he was like, "All right." He was like, "Your case is closed and you are now dismissed." And I was like, "Yay!" So I turn around and leave, and the other cop that's like, just standing there, she gave me a fist bump, and she was like, "Thank you for doing what you were supposed to be doing." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." Still a cab. Everybody was all the cops I dealt with were really sweet, but it's like a cab, bitch. I don't give a fuck. you know. So yeah, that's the full story. That's everything that happened. My license is still suspended. Um, it's suspended for 6 months. I think it's done next month or in October. I think after that I can get my license, but then that's when I have to like have the DMV hearing and see what they have to say, and then get that SR22 insurance. Which, if you guys don't know what that is, it's just a specific type of insurance for people don't who have gotten like DUIs and stuff like that. From what I've been told from other friends, is that it's a mandatory for 3 years, and um, if you miss a payment, it restarts the whole 3 years again. Like one of my friends had told me that it took her friend 10 years to pay because she kept on fucking up, and I was like, I don't want to have this insurance my whole life. I don't know if I have to get the breathalyzer. There was a paper that they kept sending me in the email that were saying like, let's get you back on the road sooner, but from what I remember the paper saying, and from what I understood, is that if I get a car now, they would have to install the breathalyzer. But I think after the 6 months, they don't have to. But then when I looked more into it, they said it depends on what the DMV says. I guess it all depends on how high your alcohol level was. So I don't know. I'm like, when I've asked some of my DUI friends, and they're like, yeah, you just have to wait it out to see when you get a car and what the DMV tells you. So as of right now, I am more at ease because it's like, okay, it's finally over. This took up almost like half of the fucking year, but it's like, now I don't have a car. I have to ask for rides, and I have like to have I take Ubers everywhere. It's becoming expensive, but it's like, I don't know. It's just insane because it's like something you think that will never happen to you can happen to you, and when it does, it's just like, oh shit, dude. Like, what did I do? Because now I'm gonna have this on my record for 7 years, and then I this was the year that I wanted to fix my life, and I wanted to go into the medical field again as a medical assistant. And I found out that if they run your background, the DUI comes up if you want to work in the medical field. And I was like, oh, dude, come on. But we'll see how it goes. As far as my sobriety, I maintained it this year for about 5 months, and then EDC happened, and I drank and I did coke, and then I was kind of sober after that, and then Pride Month happened, and I met these new friends, which I'm not blaming them. I'm not. I started doing it again because I wanted to, and I'm only saying that too because let me put this out there. Let me just have a real quick rant or tangent or whatever. One thing I do not appreciate is having other people blame my new friend group or just friends in general. With people trying to tell me like, oh, I'm not like your fake friends who are giving you shots and doing this and that, and it's like, it is there is not fake friends. It is, what is it that you don't understand, that this is my journey. This has nothing to do with anybody else. Like, I don't blame anybody. I caused my own DUI. I caused my own addictions. I'm the one that's choosing to continue to drink. This is nobody's business but my own. I don't blame anybody but me. Because again, this is my journey. This is nobody else's fault. And that's what I don't like, was that I had a couple people try to tell me that, and it's like, so we're throwing stones from a glass house now? Because from what I remember, I've gotten fucked up with you before too. I've taken shots with you too. But all of a sudden, you want to act like we were never out here doing this. Like that's what I don't appreciate. Other people being blamed when it's like, I chose, like I chose to start doing it again. But yeah, I started drinking again. I'm not on drugs. I'm still clean from that. But yeah, I did start drinking again. It's gotten to a point, again, I'll be vulnerable, where I want to get sober again, because I don't know if like how I said at the beginning, alcohol just tends to be detrimental to me after a while, specifically with my mental health. And I don't know what happened, I don't know if it's because of me being borderline that sometimes the alcohol may trigger it, but then also just being borderline in general, you could be good one minute and the next minute you're not. But what's really making me want to stop drinking is that um a couple weeks ago on a Monday, work was just so bad, and me and my coworkers went to PT's because they have like a really good happy hour. And once I got home, I blacked out, and I woke up, and I had a razor in my hand, and I had slashed myself across my neck. It's healed now. I didn't go too deep, but that's where I was like, ooh, maybe I should take a break, because not me doing this while I'm blacked out. And then also too, like what I was honest about on my Instagram story was that I'm going on peptides, so you really can't drink on those. I mean, they say you can, but I don't want to, and I want to lock in for 3 months so I could like really have that change and look different. And that's what really helped me with my sobriety at first was the peptides, because like I would smell alcohol and I would almost throw up, and it was weird. So I don't know what I did to break it that I was able to start drinking again. But yeah, I'm gonna do the whole sober thing again, because it is getting to a point, and I am starting to feel like shit again. And that whole situation that happened, it did kind of scare me, because I was like, what if I did cut deep enough? And unfortunately, my family has to find me in my room rotting away, just completely bled out. So it really put everything into perspective. And but I was just so surprised that it happened, because this time with me drinking, I was like, I'm not doing it because I'm like feeling a certain way. I'm doing it because I'm being social, like I'm having fun, because I was having fun, and that's where I go back and forth between me being an addict or not, because there's times where I can not drink, and then there's times where, like, when I do go out, I do drink a lot. And I had that conversation with my friend, and she was like, I just feel like you're an emotional drinker, and then you're also a social drinker, and you're always being social. And I was like, that's true, but I'm gonna, do the sober thing for 3 months, because that's how long you have to be on the peptides. And then I'll see how I feel afterwards. Maybe I'll stay sober, because it's just like I said, I'm starting to feel like shit again, and I also don't want to potentially end up killing myself because I drink too much. But yeah, yeah, that's where I'm gonna end it for today. That's my whole DUI story. Yeah, just I don't know. It's a lot to learn. It's a lot to take in. It it happened in the blink of an eye. I don't want to go through that again. And I know I'm still gonna have so much more to pay because of when I get a car. Even though I want a car so bad because I'm tired of spending on Uber, but it's like it's gonna be even more expensive in general because of all the things I'm gonna have to add to it. But as of now, your boy's good. My rib is relatively healed. I mean, I still get a pain from every now and then, but as far as I know, everything is fine. Um, but yeah, I'll I'll keep you guys updated on the whole peptides and the sobriety and everything like that. But yeah, this is where I'm gonna leave you guys. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to watch this and to keep up with me and my inconsistencies and me constantly ruining my sobriety in my life. I appreciate all the support from all of you. And yeah, I'll link my socials down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.